Imagine waking up one morning, checking your bank, and realizing every ounce of gold backing your money is gone. Poof! Overnight. Vanished. America's wealth evaporated into thin air like a magician's best trick. Except the magician, he's your government. This was no ordinary theft. This was the day money died. And no, we're not talking about some Wild West bank heist with horses and 6 shooters. We're talking the systematic disappearance of America's gold reserves in a way so shocking it would make Fort Knox itself feel like a leaky piggy bank. Picture it, 1933. The Great Depression is strangling the country like a python on a diet. Banks are failing faster than you can say insufficient funds. People are panicking, hoarding cash, hiding coins under mattresses, and whispering to each other, "The dollar's toast." And then the government drops the bomb. Executive Order 6102. Yes, an executive order. Because when your country is about to collapse, subtlety isn't the solution. Dramatic confiscation of personal wealth is. And what did it demand? Every American, every one of them, had to turn in their gold coins, gold bullion, even gold certificates to the Federal Reserve, or face fines up to $10,000. In today's money, that's about $200,000. Now imagine the scene. Long lines outside banks, people clutching jars of coins, panicked faces, the smell of desperation in the air. You hand over your family's heirlooms, your wedding rings, your secret treasure under the floorboards, and walk away with a receipt that might as well have had a good luck note. But here's the twist that will make your jaw drop. The government didn't just want your gold for safekeeping. Oh no, they were about to rewrite the entire rules of money. They melted it, stored it, and then redefined the dollar. Suddenly, the dollar you thought was backed by solid gold, now it was backed by faith. Pure, abstract, untested faith in the government's ability to pay its bills. And the people? Well, they were supposed to trust it. Some historians call it a betrayal. Some call it brilliance. But here's the part most people don't realize. This wasn't just a US thing. Across the world, countries were quietly watching the chaos, wondering, if America can do this, what's stopping us? And the consequences? Oh, they were monumental. Hyperinflation fears, secret stashes of gold buried in backyards, and a population suddenly realizing that money isn't really money at all. It's trust, cleverly disguised as shiny metal. Let's pause here for a second. If you're hooked so far, imagine what's coming next. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this wild money story. Because in the next part, we're diving into how this gold confiscation literally reshaped the economy overnight, changed international trade forever, and made everyday Americans rethink what wealth actually means. And just between us, some of the stories about what people did to hide their gold are absolutely insane. Secret tunnels, hollowed-out furniture, even swallowing coins to keep them safe. If you thought your hiding spots were clever, think again. But before we get to that, let's rewind a bit. How did the US even get here? Why would a country that prides itself on capitalism and free markets suddenly decide to yank gold out of the hands of its own citizens? The answer lies in the 1920s and the roaring chaos that was supposed to be the American dream. Banks lent money like candy, people speculated on stocks as if they were playing a video game, and everyone thought they were invincible. Until 1929. Boom! The stock market crashed, and suddenly, the great American dream felt like it had been pawned for pennies. Banks failed, unemployment soared, and the country needed a miracle, or at least a magician who could pull gold out of, well, Americans. And here's where it gets really juicy. The government didn't just quietly collect gold, they did it with the sort of theatrical flair that would make Hollywood proud. secret memos, midnight orders, and a propaganda campaign that made turning in your gold seem like patriotic duty. Your gold could save the country, they said, and people, desperate, confused, and broke, mostly complied. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sure, but what about those who didn't comply? That's where the stories get dark, fascinating, and yes, a little absurd. Some were fined, some went to jail, and some, well, they became legends. People who hid gold in walls, buried it in forests, even disguised it as household items. One story even tells of a man who made hollowed-out shoes and smuggled coins around like some 1930s James Bond. By the end of it, the gold was gone, the dollar was redefined, and Americans had to come to grips with a terrifying new reality. Your wealth isn't always yours. And money, well, sometimes it's just a story we all agree to believe. But let's fast forward for a moment. The day America's gold disappeared wasn't just a dramatic headline. It triggered a domino effect that would rattle the global financial system. Banks that had relied on gold reserves suddenly realized they were holding paper promises. International traders, they blinked. Wait, what do you mean your dollars aren't backed by gold? Some laughed, some panicked, some, in true human fashion, decided to hedge their bets by stockpiling what they could trust. Actual metal, hidden in basements, caves, and, yes, even under floorboards. Here's one of my favorite anecdotes. A man in New York, let's call him Mr. X, was a small-time jeweler. When the executive order hit, he didn't just turn in his gold. Nope, he stuffed every coin he could into hollowed-out books, secret compartments in his walls, and, get this, his oven. On the day inspectors came by, he served them a slice of pie, smiled politely, and they never suspected a thing. By the end of the year, he was a legend in his neighborhood, the man who beat the government at its own game. And he wasn't alone. Across the country, Americans turned into amateur magicians and engineers. Some dug tunnels under their homes. Some hid bars inside furniture, chairs, beds, even desks. One story claims a farmer melted gold coins into small rods and planted them like fence posts. I mean, talk about investing in real estate. Right! Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., policymakers were patting themselves on the back. Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration had pulled off what they considered a masterpiece, reclaiming nearly all private gold and shoving the nation into a new monetary era. The dollar was now a fiat currency, backed not by gold, but by government decree. And for a while, it worked. Confidence returned, banks stabilized, and the stock market started to crawl back from the abyss. But here's the kicker. Not everyone was thrilled. Critics cried foul, claiming this was theft dressed as patriotism. The press had a field day. Headlines screamed about betrayal, coercion, and government overreach. Some argued this move set a dangerous precedent, that your hard-earned money could literally be confiscated by the state overnight. And yet, decades later, when you hold a $1 bill, it's still technically a promise, not a weighty piece of gold. Crazy, right? Let's take a quick side trip for a moment. This wasn't just an American story, it was a global wake-up call. European countries, still licking wounds from World War I and the Great Depression, watched closely. If the US can redefine money, maybe we can too, some whispered. It planted the seeds of international financial experiments that would ripple through decades, from Bretton Woods to modern central banking. And every time a country fiddles with gold or currency reserves, the ghosts of 1933 whisper, "Be careful, or the money dies again." Now, I promised you twists. Here's one. Even after the government collected nearly every ounce of private gold, rumors swirled that some people still had secret stashes. Some hid them so well that decades later, treasure hunters discovered coins and bullion in attic floors, old barns, and even in the walls of historic buildings. Imagine opening your grandparents' house and finding a fortune you never knew existed, a fortune your family quietly smuggled through one of history's greatest financial storms. And here's the lesson that hits hard. Money is fragile. Wealth is fragile. Even gold, that symbol of eternal security, can vanish overnight if trust erodes or power shifts. And humans? Well, humans are ridiculously creative under pressure. Some comply, some resist, and some outsmart the system entirely. History remembers the latter with a wink and a nod. The quiet rebels who refused to let the story of their money end with a government decree. Before we wrap this section, let me drop a middle-of-the-video nugget. If you're still glued to this story, hit that subscribe button now, because the next chapter, it's where things get truly insane. We'll talk about how the US dollar survived the Gold Vanishing Act, how everyday Americans rebuilt trust in paper money, and how some fortunes quietly multiplied while others disappeared into history forever. Now, let's zoom out for a moment and ask a bigger question. Why does this story still matter today? Because history has a sneaky way of repeating itself. Governments and central banks all over the world are constantly tinkering with money. Digital currencies, stimulus packages, inflation adjustments, and every time a new experiment begins, there's a shadow of 1933 lurking in the background, whispering, "Trust, but verify, or your wealth might just vanish overnight." By the way, the story of the gold isn't just about economics, it's about human psychology, about fear, desperation, ingenuity, and resilience. It's about how societies react when the rules of money change suddenly. And it's about understanding that ultimately, money is a social contract. It only works if people believe in it. Break that belief, and even the heaviest gold bars are just metal. And here's the cliffhanger that will make your head spin. Some historians believe a tiny fraction of that confiscated gold never made it to the Federal Reserve. Vanished, hidden by insiders, lost in transit, or quietly smuggled abroad. Some speculate it still exists today in secret vaults and private collections, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Could it be enough to shake the world economy? Maybe. But that, my friends, is a story for another time. All right, let's get to the part that keeps historians and treasure hunters awake at night. The fate of the gold that wasn't collected. You see, while the government officially confiscated nearly every ounce, whispers and rumors persisted, and persist to this day, that some gold never made it to Washington. Stashed away in basements, buried in forests, or even secretly exported, this gold became a modern legend. Some call it the lost gold of 1933, a fortune so massive that if ever rediscovered, it could rattle markets worldwide. Imagine a map of America dotted with secret caches, each one a mystery waiting to be solved. And here's the mind-blowing part. These weren't just coins. Some were specially minted bars, rare collector pieces, and gold that had been in families for generations. Historians and enthusiasts have spent decades chasing these stories, occasionally uncovering hidden stashes that spark headlines, but no one has ever found the big one. The ultimate treasure remains out there, hiding in plain sight. Meanwhile, in the banks and the Federal Reserve, the gold that did arrive was melted, recast, and stored with a precision that would make a Swiss watchmaker blush. It was a spectacle of modern bureaucracy and secrecy. Tens of thousands of bars stacked in climate-controlled vaults, each one a symbol of trust in a new kind of currency. But trust, as we've seen, is a delicate thing. One misstep, one economic shock, and even this gold-backed promise could have crumbled. And crumbled it almost did. Fast forward a few years and the world was at war. The US economy had stabilized, but Europe and Asia were in flames. The gold standard, the very system that had dictated global trade, was under siege. Countries abandoned it, currencies fluctuated wildly, and the lesson was clear. Gold alone doesn't guarantee stability. What guarantees it? Systems, faith, and, most importantly, the belief that money has value. Without that, well, it dies. Now, let's get personal. What does this mean for you, for us, for anyone holding dollars, euros, or any modern currency? It's simple. Money isn't a magic rock. It's not indestructible.
Wealth isn't just numbers on a screen, and history is full of reminders that security is fleeting. You need awareness, preparation, and yes, maybe a little ingenuity if the rules change overnight. And here's the kicker, it all comes back to the human element. Because when gold disappeared overnight, people didn't just panic. They adapted, they hid, they innovated, they strategized. Some lost everything, some gained fortunes, and some quietly laughed at the system while it scrambled to rewrite the rules. Money is a game, and sometimes the best players are the ones who see the rules bending before everyone else does. Before we close, a quick note. If you loved uncovering this hidden piece of financial history, subscribe and stick around. The next story might just change how you think about money forever. Imagine the kind of tale where entire fortunes vanish, governments scramble, and history quietly writes new rules behind closed doors. And here's the cliffhanger to leave you thinking. Some claim that the lost gold of 1933 still exists today, enough to disrupt modern markets if ever revealed. Could one discovery rewrite our understanding of wealth, power, and trust in money? Could one vault, forgotten for decades, hold the secrets of the financial world? History hasn't told us yet, but when it does, the world will be watching. Because here's the truth, and it's both terrifying and fascinating. Money isn't real. Wealth isn't real. It's all a story we collectively agree to believe. And sometimes that story dies overnight. So the next time you hold a dollar bill, remember this: trust is the most valuable currency of all. And somewhere in a hidden vault or a buried basement, the echoes of America's gold await, patiently, silently, like a ghost waiting to rewrite history.